can't be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me. And I can't hold it much longer. Gonna let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Happy Monday, FT Live. Let's run it. Braun, Pierzynski, Kratz with you today. AJ, good weekend?
Long weekend.
Dude, you actually were all over the place. Obviously, I'm talking about we got to hang out and hit a little festy, but you also...
Is that what we call it?
Yeah.
Festy
Besties now.
Oh, festy besties?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute. Man, I should have kept all my wristbands on. I had like 7 wristbands on.
Yes.
And 9
That's how
glow
cool he
sticks.
was.
Oh, man.
Glow sticks everywhere. We went to EDC Orlando.
You know what? I was actually surprised. There wasn't as many glow sticks as I thought there would be.
No.
There was no glow sticks, Kratz. Very disappointed.
Ugh. So disappointing. I wanted to wear my glow glasses.
Oh, I've never seen. I tell you what, Scott christened me, took my virginity from
Your EDM.
Yes. And he
virginity.
loved it, okay?
And it was pretty fun. I'm not going to lie. It was kind of
pretty
awesome.
cool. Yeah.
It was not what I expected. It was way bigger than I thought it was going to be, like way larger. I mean, it took up the football stadium in Orlando, like every parking lot. I mean, around it was just neon light or glowing. I don't know. If you
Stages.
stages everywhere.
Massive. Tens of thousands
Oh
of
my gosh.
people
There
at
had
each
to be-
stage.
There had to be at least
75K?
75,000 people there last night. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Scott is so proud. Scott is like, he has this face on. He's like, I told you so. I told you so, AJ.
Obviously, AJ got really bougie hooked up too. You know, we're
Yeah.
open bar and
Yeah.
your own viewing area, the whole deal. I mean, we
We mingled.
toured around, yes,
We mingled.
but we also experienced the high life a little bit.
Do you guys have any lobster? I usually eat lobster when I listen to EDM. This is what I
Yeah,
like.
we did not dabble in the buffet. But,
No, we missed the buffet, which was probably a mistake.
well, debatable. But all right. Anyway, a lot of news from the weekend, so let's get to it. Oh, also, we'll do this later, but AJ spoke. But we'll give some people some news. But AJ was also just casually in St. Louis, too. We'll get to that later. So let's get to some news here first as we charge the damn mound and welcome Joe Espada to the team that you've been with for a long time. He is officially the manager of the Houston Astros. Another seat is now filled. And for me, my biggest question, Kratz, there you go from Chandler Rome, 20th full-time manager in Astros history after 6 years biding time as the team's bench coach. He's 48 years old. What took so long? This was a pretty long process. I mean, it's been weeks since the season ended, and I'm never going to fault you for doing your homework, your due diligence, being thorough, but it seemed like this was the fit for them, and he'd been waiting for a minute. You know him.
Yeah, I mean, barely. It was there for a month, and then the playoffs. We lost in Game 7 of the ALCS, and then like 6 minutes later, he shipped out of third base and went to be the bench coach of the Astros. My question isn't like what took so long. My question is, what does that interview look like? What does that interview look like for a guy that's been there forever? It's kind of like, hey, Joe, we'd like you to come in and like interview for this job. Like we pretty much know your answers. He's been there for 7 years. So it's 18, 19, 6 years, 6 seasons. Like, like what could they really be asking him more than what they've already? And I thought there was rumors he had after AJ left, after Hinch left, he had interviewed for the job before. So it was like, have you improved over the last 5 years? I'd want to know.
I think he was there. He was always their top choice, I felt like. He was always seemed like the manager in waiting in Houston. I don't know. It was weird because Dusty kind of commanded the room. It's going to be interesting with Joe. I don't know as well as you do, Kratzy, but very nice when you go into Houston, always talking, always saying hello. Players respect the heck out of him. So it's a good hiring if you want to kind of keep the line of succession in the Astros organization there. There's rumors of like Brad Ausmus, Scott's pal, some other people that were rumored to be in the mix. But this seemed like an easy hire for me if I'm an Astros employee, an Astros front office person. Like, it just seemed like he was the perfect guy. Like, there's other organizations where you say, oh man, like, let's look around. But it seemed like Joe was the right guy, and he'd been groomed for the last 6 years to take over this, and now they think he's ready. And I think he'll do a great job. I think he's a baseball guy. You know, he knows the clubhouse, he knows the culture in Houston. I think he's the perfect fit.
Yeah, it made sense on many levels, and it helps for continuity too, right?
Yeah,
you don't have to get used to someone
yeah.
new. The same system can kind of run itself. So bench coaches also are the most likely people to be hired as managers, which we're seeing with Carlos Mendoza, who was technically officially
bench coaches
announced.
really are kind of the manager. It's kind of funny, like Kratz would say, they do everything. Bench coaches do way more than a manager does. They do way more work.
Not even close.
Now, the manager has to handle the press and the media and all that, but the manager kind of just sits there. The bench coach runs spring training. He's like
Game
giving
decisions.
matchups.
Yeah.
You know, they discuss everything. He has to deal with, you know, BPs and setting up times. And, we need a simulated game. We need our pitcher that's hurt to throw a simulated game. The bench coach sets up. Manager doesn't do all that.
You don't think a manager spends more time per day on his job than a bench coach does? No?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
We used to always joke. Ozzy's going to kill me when I say this, but I don't care. We used to always say that Joey Cora was our manager in 2005. Ozzy was our press liaison, and Joey Cora was our manager because he was our bench coach. But no, Ozzy was great, but it was like a running joke. We'd say, and now Joey's in Detroit. So
yeah, still going. Okay. And we'll get to more on Joe Espada with Brian McTaggart coming up, who covers the team. He'll be with us in about 10 minutes. We also have a Gunnar Henderson interview we're going to run a little bit later on. So let's move to Craig Counsell officially being introduced as the evil Chicago Cubs manager. How dare he leave? Does it look weird?
yeah,
Here it is. If you're on the podcast crowd, we're looking at it right now. It does?
yeah, it looks weird.
Imagine if Kratz, 2 weeks ago, I just showed you this video. What would you do?
Oh my goodness. I would say it was Halloween. Like he was dressing up. Like that would be a great Halloween gag. Like dress up as like Jeter dresses up at a Red Sox press conference. Like just the whole shtick, like just trolling people. I would have never believed it.
April Fool's Day.
April Fool's Day. Perfect.
Kratz still hasn't stopped crying though, so I don't know what he has a hard time with this one. This is a big one for him, and the fact that counts. And a lot of Brewers fans and organization. I mean, heck, when the owner comes out and says, we didn't lose him, he lost us. Ooh, he also got $8 million a year.
Yeah, no, you lost.
Yeah, you lost him, obviously.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how. It just looks weird. It's going to take some getting used to. It's when someone. I mean, Kratz. When the first time, well, you did it more than I did early in your career. But when you first switch uniforms the first time, you look down and you're wearing like a different uniform. It's weird. So the first time Craig Counsell goes into Wrigley, and early in spring training, he puts on the uniform. He looks down. He's going to be like, "Damn, this is going to take me a minute." It even takes you a minute as a player or a manager or whatever when you look down and it's not the same uniform you've been used to. And he did such a great job in Milwaukee. And I don't know. Hopefully it works out for him. But listen, he got the bag, so good for you, Counts.
I think it looks comfortable. For some reason, it doesn't look out of place. He looks like he wears the uniform nicely. Wish they would have shown his calves in the press conference, but they didn't. Like we all lost out on that. I remember when I was in 2014, I was traded to the Blue Jays. And I came up with the Blue Jays, spent 2 years with the Pirates organization, and then I went 3 years with the Phillies. And our first game in spring training, because we're 15 feet apart, spring training complexes, we were playing the Phillies. I played in the game. I had my Blue Jays uniform on, obviously. Went and sat in the 5th, 6th inning, sat at my locker, and I was kind of just taking my cleats off, not really watching, paying attention. And I look up at the TV, and I looked up, and I go, oh, yeah, we scored. Wait a minute. Phillies scored. I'm on the Blue Jays. Wait a minute. It was all my old teammates up with the Phillies. but it was the very first game we had played, and it was the craziest. It was the craziest thing, like, to try to, like, that day, I'll never forget being in the locker room thinking, like, wait a minute, like, that is a weird transition.
Yeah. I can't relate. I guess when I worked here versus the last place I was at forever. That's about it. Oh, we have it too. Let's run a little Craig Counsell chatting with his Chicago friends.
From a baseball standpoint, I think I saw quickly that, like, the organization is just in great health. And, like, that, Jed presented a very compelling vision of that. It is time to be a Cub, right? There is momentum happening here, and it feels close. And that means there's a really exciting future ahead of us. And now it's my job to be part of taking us to the next level.
What does that mean? Because you look at the Cubs system, I don't see that. So are they leaning on, like, Nico Horner, like Ian Happ, Dansby Swanson, Seiya Suzuki, and free agent signings? Everybody we bring on is like, Ricketts, they're not spending.
Mm-hmm.
They have momentum, Kratz. They almost made the playoffs, and he comes from a team that won the division.
Here's the one.
I'm trying not to make sense on purpose. It doesn't matter.
With what,
just go to the press conference and go like this and say, listen, everyone, you need to start paying us what we're fucking worth.
He did
and
that with the contract.
Let's go freaking win
already.
too. I'm gonna go show them that this is worth it. And then you drop the damn mic and you leave.
By the way, there's only one big problem I have with what he said.
What?
When he said it's a great time to be a Cub, it's never a great time to be a Cub.
That's
Let's just make sure that we get that out there, Craig.
AJ's shedding more tears than I'm shedding about this.
How much money would it take for you to, I don't know, be a Cubs fan or something like that?
Be a Cubs fan?
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough money.
If you wanted to be a manager,
I think there is.
What would it take for you to be the Cubs manager?
I mean, I'd take what Craig Counsell got.
Yeah.
See, White Sox fans? AJ does have a price. You just got
everybody has a price. Didn't you ever watch The
$1
Million Man, Ted DiBiase? Everybody has a price, Kratz.
Hey, lastly, before we get to Brian McTaggart on Joe Espada, it sounds like, obviously it doesn't just sound like it's real because Ken was talking about it. Rosenthal and Brendan Cuddy were reporting that the Yankees asked David Ross about the bench coach job, but he prefers a manager gig. So, and that would mean Kratz, even if he doesn't get one of these open gigs, maybe he'll take his time, wait for someone to get fired or sideswipe someone or I don't know, something like that. But he doesn't want to go to bench coach. I think that's fair.
He doesn't need the job. He's going to sit at home and do the exact same thing. He'll probably call his buddies up and get a little TV time, a little look at me, showtime. But he's not going to be going to any. He's not going to be going to any 2016 reunions for a little while. That's for sure.
I mean, yeah, of course, David Ross. I'm sure, dude. If I'm David Ross, I'm a little bit bitter about the way this went down.
A little?
I mean, I'm a little bit pissed off about the way this went down. I mean, again, we talked about it last week. He kind of got just fired out of nowhere, and all they did was put out a little, like, two little sentence. We've relieved David Ross of his managerial duties. We wish him the best. Thanks. Now on to Craig Counsell. Like, dang, dude. I mean, this guy was like a cult hero in Chicago for what he did in 2016.
And he didn't do anything wrong.
Well, he just didn't win.
Right.
So, yeah, he didn't do anything wrong. He just wore his bullpen out to no end this year. But, I mean, listen, he played the hand he was dealt. He did the best he could. But, I mean, it was just – I just felt it was the wrong way to go about it with someone like – but then again, they also always say, you know, don't meet your heroes. Well, also don't take the job you think is your dream job because eventually everyone gets fired, right?
His persona, like you look at the guys who have been hired, like Craig Counsell got hired. He was not like a self-promoter. Ron Washington was not a self-promoter. He was just a effervescent personality. Carlos Mendoza, not a self-promoter, like bench coach, behind the scenes type of guy. David Ross has always kind of been a self-promoter, kind of out there in front of the TV, out there in front of the camera. So I would love to know his real opinion on how it felt with the Cubs, how it felt, because he's always kind of been like the happy-go-lucky, hey, what's up? Oh, man, that's so neat. Kissing babies. I'm a Cubs fan. I love the Cubs. All this stuff. Now it's a transition for him, and I don't blame him at all for not taking a bench coach job, because he doesn't need to pine for a job. There'll be more openings if he's not in the running for the Padres job, and Craig and Scotty B. And Scotty B doesn't hire him to be the Brewers manager, then he can wait. He can wait it out for next year.
By the way, Wade Kratz was talking. He's talking. It sounded like I thought he was talking about himself a little bit. He wrote a book. He's a backup catcher. He's ultra positive. I'm like
accessible.
Damn, Kratz talking about himself.
Everything
he's
but
talking about
Dancing
David
with the
Ross.
Stars. That's right.
Damn, I got confused for a second.
I'm real. This is me. I'm real.
Also, I like that. I mean, he's been accessible. He's been media friendly, all of that. Like, that's a good thing. There's a lot of boring people in our business that need to have a little more personality and accessibility. I think he had both of those.
He got a little more crabby at the end there.
Every manager does.
Yeah, he got a little more. He was bubbly and all that, and then over the years, how many was there? 4 years? 2019, 24, 5 years.
Yeah. 4 years? Jeez.
But he, over the time, it wears on you.
Yeah.
Especially when they weren't winning. He was brought in to try to kind of rebuild and win, but he changed a little bit. He wasn't as I'm just going to call it, he wasn't as Kratzy as he was before. A little more crabby.
More crabby than Kratzy. I like that.
Crabby than Kratzy. I like that.
I like that. All right, so let's try and incorporate that into our poll question here. WatchStadium.com/foul territory. Craig Counsell wearing a Cubs jersey. Kratzy, crabby. No, I'm kidding. We already put them in there. Looks good. Yuck. Don't like it, but it's the right move. A, B, or C. We're back with Brian McTaggart talking Joe Espada, who is not as rich as Craig Counsell, as far as we know.
What are you hearing about discussed with Aaron Nola in the sense of, is he seen as a stable rotation piece with possible upside years, or is he seen as like a flat out 1 or 2 that's going to come and save a rotation?
A little of both. He certainly is a stable rotation piece. I don't know about upside. Erik, he's 30. He kind of is who he is, and I don't know that he'll get much better. Certainly could get better as he gets a little older because of his sheer experience. But the thing that recommends Aaron Nola the most is his durability. Second in innings just to Garrett Cole since 2018. Now, the last 3 years, 2 of those years, he's had high ERAs. But he was really good in the playoffs this year. And he's certainly someone, because of his style, his repertoire, it would suggest that he's going to age well. So a lot of teams like Aaron Nola, especially in this day and age when you have so few starters who go deep into games to save bullpens, here's one that actually does and actually takes pride in doing it. Hasn't been on the injured list with an arm injury since, I believe, 2016. Hasn't been on the injured list at all since 17. So this guy is reliable, he's durable, and he's going to do well. And I know some of the initial free agent projections for the starting pitchers for guys like him were in the $120, $125 million range. Even Snell was somewhat low, in my opinion. I would expect that the whole group is going to do better than those lower projections. I think they're going to be doing really well. Yamamoto above $200 million. Blake Snell and Nola, in my view, could be above 150. I'm not great at predicting this stuff, but it just seems to me the demand for these pitchers in this era is going to be so great that they're all going to do really well.
And now, back to foul territory. Back on FT Live on Stadium, Braun, Pierzynski, Kratz, and MLB.com's Brian McTaggart joining us right now, and you can follow him at Brian McTaggart. That's his name. And he just witnessed Joe Espada officially get on board as the manager of the Houston Astros. How was that, Brian? Pretty low key since everyone knows him already?
Yeah, it was. It was really low key. I mean, everyone in the room knew him, and I think from the moment Dusty retired, that Espada, I think, was the front runner. Everybody knew that he's sort of been in line to get this job. I think for a few years now. I mean, this is a guy that's worked under 3 World Series winning managers, and Girardi, Hinch, and now Dusty Baker. I know that Joe's interviewed for a lot of jobs the last few years, didn't get them for whatever reason, but the fact that he waited it out and gets the Astros job, I think was just really gratifying for him. And, he spoke a lot about just this being his dream job. He spoke a lot about his family. And I think it'll be a pretty seamless transition for a team that thinks it can compete for a World Series championship once again next year.
Does it really matter? Does it really matter who they hire? Because this team, you can say, well, they didn't make the World Series. Like, okay, like there's obviously every team wants to upgrade, but this team is they're self-sustaining. So did it really matter who they hired? And maybe that's why Joe got the job?
Yeah, I think it matters. Yeah, you're right. You could probably roll me out there and they would win, 85 games probably, or, if I didn't mess it up too much. But, there was also a little bit of a disconnect with Dusty and the front office, I think, that, led to, some things maybe not going on the field as well as the Astros would have hoped. And I think that new GM Dana Brown and Joe are very much aligned. Dana Brown wanted somebody who's a communicator. He used the word collaborative a lot. I don't think that was always the case with Dusty Baker. Dusty had done this for a long time, did things his way, and hey, he earned that right. He's won over 2,000 games now as a World Series. He did things his way, but that not always was the way that the front office wanted to operate. So, I think things are going to be a little more collaborative now. But the Astros returned 8 of their 9 starting position players. They returned their entire starting rotation. They return their closer and their setup man. They're not going anywhere. But if they're healthy, it's a team that should be a 100-win team, a team that should be right there with the Rangers once again, and in what should be a very wild AL West race next year.
Brian, are you at Minute Maid Park, or you have your own office at Minute Maid?
I am in the radio announcers booth at Minute Maid. So, yeah, this is where I'm trying to Joe Espada's on the field right now taking pictures, so I'm kind of spying on him a little bit. But, yeah, I'm in the it's a dark, dreary day here in Houston. So.
Oh, I could tell because I've done a ton of games in Houston. I could tell by the dreary lighting that you were definitely at Minute Maid the way definitely.
It's not easy to find a place with good lighting here at Minute Maid, so.
No, especially in the press boxes. They forgot about the lights. It's a great view, but it's not great lighting. Was there anybody else in the running? We heard Brad Ausmus. Was there anyone else? We kind of talked about this in the opening here that this took a long time for a guy that was already there for 6 years and has already kind of seemed like the heir apparent to Dusty for a while. Was there anyone else there, and why did this take so long?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I think the fact that a lot of names were thrown out there. You mentioned Ausmus and, everyone threw out a bunch of names. The fact that the only people we know for sure that interviewed for this job or the only person was Joe Espada just leads me to believe that he was their guy all along. It took about 2 weeks. So one thing I know that Dana Brown, the owner of the team, Jim Crane, wanted Dana Brown, the GM, to do a search, to bring some guys in and interview, even if he thought that Joe was the guy. He wanted Joe to get maybe some different perspectives from some other guys, get some experience interviewing guys. But it was really strange that the lack of names that came out, you did not hear blank interviewed for the Astros. It was only Joe Espada. So I think he was the guy all along. And whether they had to dot some I's, cross some T's, I don't know why it took so long. But yeah, it's been about 2 weeks since Dusty announced his retirement, and they finally got around to announcing it. But I thought all along from the get-go, as just most people did, that Joe was going to be the front runner for this job, just because he had been here so long. He's an experienced manager. He wants this job very badly. But I'm sure they had no shortage of candidates blowing up Dana Brown's phone, considering the Astros are a turnkey team. They're going to be in the hunt next year, and you have an owner that's committed to winning, that's not afraid to spend a lot of money, and it's a situation that any manager could come into, probably, like you said, as long as he doesn't mess it up, and probably win a lot of games and get deep into October.
As Alex Bregman made very clear at the end of the season, this team doesn't lose. But if this team loses and they kind of gone away from, maybe like you said, they possibly could have a little more front office ownership continuity, is this on Joe Espada or is this on the front office? And, it shows what Dusty Baker really did for this team.
Well, I guess it matters how they lose. If they have an offseason where they don't address some of their needs, and that winds up being a wart in the season, they need some relief help. They do. I did say they do have their their closer back and Ryan Presley and their setup guy and Brian Abreu, but they are losing a couple of key members to their bullpen if they don't resign them. So if that's not addressed and their bullpen becomes an issue next year, then maybe that's on the front office. But if they get into the regular season and everything's been addressed, they fortified their bullpen, they have a backup catcher, maybe they got some starting pitching depth, and the team underperforms. If they're healthy, they underperform for whatever reason, or they start kicking the ball around, or they don't play hard. And, maybe that's on Joe. But, I think this is very much going to be the collaborative effort that we heard that Dana Brown wanted, that he's promised, that Joe Espada's promised. I think, very much is going to be that. I mean, if you go back to the ALCS last year, Game 5, Astros are trailing 8th inning. Dusty Baker gets kicked out. They rally in the 9th inning, and the Astros make 2 moves that they probably wouldn't have made if Dusty was still in the dugout. And Joe Espada talked about this today. Pinch hit for Jeremy Pena, which is something Dusty never did. They ended up getting a base hit from Yainer Diaz. And then John Singleton comes off the bench for a walk, and then Altuve hits the 3-run homer. It was only half an inning, but Espada got the keys to the car right there and made a couple of moves that, worked out brilliantly, at least in that game before they lost the 2 games at home. So, I don't think anyone's going to be to blame if the Astros at least go to the CS or World Series. The expectations here are so high. But if they bow out in the first round or unbelievably don't make the playoffs, then we're going to have to point the finger at somebody. I'm not sure who that would be.
Hey, Brian, we haven't spoken to you since the Rangers won. So are they bitter in Houston? Or are they like, we've won a lot, we're good?
I think there's a little of both. I mean, I think the fans will tell you, oh, well, we've got 2, you've got 1. But deep down inside them, man, they know they were close. I mean, they were 1 home win away from going to the World Series. And I think I would have liked their chances very much against the D-backs in that series. So, they can, say what they will about winning a couple of World Series. But, let's be honest. They come home with a chance to close out the ALCS with 2 games at home, and they can't do it. It's just unbelievable. This has happened now twice to the Astros, and it's probably cost them 2 World Series victories. I mean, in 2019, they lose 4 games at home in the World Series. They win 1 of those, they win another ring. And this year, I mean, I think if they can just close out the Rangers at home, win 1 home game out of 4, I think they go to the World Series, and they probably beat the D-backs. So, the expectations are so high here and the fact it was the Rangers, the teams, I mean, these 2 teams have built a pretty good rivalry here. In fact, I looked it up the other day. The Rangers and Astros winning back-to-back World Series titles. No teams in the same division have done that in 40 years. So this is going to be a really fun race next year with 2 teams that, both of them could win the World Series again, and they're their last 2 World Series winners. It's going to be a fun rivalry, but I think it really stuck in the craw of Astros fans, I think, to watch the Rangers celebrate, knowing that, man, they could have knocked them out with just 1 more win at home.
Brian, is Joe Espada, you said he's out on the field right now. Is he out there painting the batter's eye so that the Astros hitters can't complain about how they can't hit at home anymore, or what?
No, the batter's eye looks untouched, although I would not surprise me if that changes at some point this year just because of all the whining we heard about. I mean, they already moved it out a little bit, but it really didn't seem to, do a lot of I mean, the Rangers came in here in Game 6 and 7 and just crushed the ball. So I think the batter's eye thing, I'm not buying into that too much. Both teams had to use it. And, last year the Astros had a historically great offense in the same ballpark. So, but it still wouldn't surprise me if they make some changes to the batter's eye because there is a lot going on out there. It's pretty busy.
Brian, does this mean with Dusty gone and Joe Espada in now, the end of the Martin Maldonado era in Houston? Because Dusty, listen, Houston Astro fans were clamoring for Diaz. People inside the organization were clamoring for Diaz. There was one guy, though, that kept Martin Maldonado in the lineup, and it was Dusty Baker. So Dusty's now retired and gone. Martin is a free agent. There's no way they bring him back, right?
Well, I mean, he could come back, but if he does, it would be under the clear understanding that it's a backup. And I think Martin knows that. I mean, Dana Brown's already said Yainer Diaz is going to be the starting catcher next year, and he has to be. I mean, the guy just crushes the ball. I mean, he held his own behind the plate as well, and I think he can only improve. But it goes back to maybe what I was talking about earlier about, the collaboration between the front office and the field, because like you said, Dusty was committed to Martin Maldonado behind the plate. I think the front office wanted Yainer Diaz behind the plate more. And, Dusty got the last call and got to do things his way. And, I don't think we're going to see that now under Espada. But there's no doubt that, Yainer Diaz is going to be the guy behind the plate. I mean, I think, he's a guy that, has 40 home run potential. I think he would have been in the Rookie of the Year race this year if he would have got enough at bats, but he just the pitchers preferred throwing to Maldonado, and Dusty was really loyal to those veteran players. But if Maldonado comes back, it will certainly be maybe he's the guy who catches Verlander once a week or once every 5 days, and that's probably it.
Are there other positions that could be similar to Maldonado? I feel like the other 8 guys are like, when you go around, it's like, well, we'll just plug and play that person. So is it more of like, is there positions in the sense that like somebody would step in and more of like, say, a platoon role, like a lot of front offices want to go to?
Yeah, I think the only thing we might see differently is Chas McCormick. Maybe, they take the reins off him and let him play a lot more. Dusty seemed hesitant to play McCormick at times, despite, what turned out to be a breakout year in center field. Ran out some other guys out there, especially early in the season. McCormick got hurt. It took a while for Dusty to, play him every day once he came back. But I think McCormick has earned the right to be the everyday starting center fielder. And I think we're going to see that. I think we'll see that, and that's something that maybe that Dusty wasn't on board with as much as he should have been, was playing Chas McCormick. But you look around the rest of the team, and all the positions are set. With Tucker, the infield that they have, they signed Abreu at first. He's not going anywhere. Bregman, Altuve, Pena, of course Alvarez and left field or DH. So Joe's coming in with a team that's loaded. Yeah, they have some decisions to make, but there's also things that are going to go on during the year that the front office would have liked that didn't go on this year. That they're we'll see that happen with Joe as far as playing time behind the plate and in center field, specifically with McCormick. Was
it because Chas was too fat, according to Dusty? Is that why?
Apparently, because he brings them banana pudding before every game.
But banana pudding is definitely saves the day for everybody.
Yeah, the Astros, ever since they let Springer walk, which you can't blame them. They went on to win a World Series. They've sort of had a hard time finding some stability in center field. They traded away Miles Straw. They traded away Jose Siri. They had Jake Myers a couple of years ago. He got hurt in the ALDS against the White Sox. And McCormick's just been a guy who's sort of bubbled up to the top, and he really took advantage of that this year, but still probably did not play as much as he should have, even though he turned out to be a very capable player, offensively and defensively as well. He did a really solid job. We saw him make that big catch in the World Series last year in Philadelphia in Game 5. So I think center field and catcher are two positions where, the Astros are going to do things differently now than they did under Dusty Baker.
Could you see the Astros kind of go away from what they normally do and maybe trade one of the big league pieces for another big league piece, like Devin Williams as a bullpen piece, and give up maybe one or two of their big league pieces?
I think I could see that, but I think it's got to be a fringe guy. I just don't think they have the depth if they want to trade away one of their starters. I'm talking maybe trade Jake Myers, somebody along that line. They just don't have the talent right now at the upper minor leagues. They have some guys who could come in and play next year, but they just don't have, for years they had wave after wave of talent coming up, Correa, Springer, Bregman, and they just plug guys in and let guys walk in free agency and just replace them, replace Correa with Jeremy Pena. They just don't have that anymore. They've traded so many guys in the last few years, prospects, including a couple of big ones to get Verlander. I think it'll be very hard to trade an impact position player to get maybe the reliever that they're after. So I think free agency is definitely the way they're going to go. They have some fringe guys on the 26-man roster they can trade. But, even though Bregman's going to be a free agent after next year, and Altuve, certainly he's not going anywhere. Cal Tucker's got a couple of years left. So all these guys are going to be back for a couple more years, at least this year anyway. And I think free agency is going to be how they're going to have to fill these spots that they need.
So, Brian, what's your dream offseason for them? You can be as realistic or unrealistic as you want. You talked about how they want to address the relief pitching, but what do you think, I guess, they should aim to be doing, knowing that they're not, going to be playing for Ohtani?
Yeah, I think they need to sign a couple of relievers. I think they need a left-handed reliever. They've struggled to get a lefty reliever for I don't know how long. Last year in the playoffs, they didn't have a lefty reliever in the bullpen. Did they go after Aroldis Chapman, a guy who's like villain number one here at Minute Maid Park with all the battles he's had with the Yankees and now the Rangers? I would sign a backhand starting pitcher. They go 6-7 deep in starting pitching, but they got McCullers coming off an injury, Luis Garcia coming off an injury. I think we saw last year, and they were probably a starting pitcher short from where they would like to have been. They're going to sign a backup catcher. I still would like to see them probably sign maybe another position player, a left-handed bat, to come off the bench and help out. I mean, that's a lot of things at that point. You got a payroll that's already, up close to $200 million, but they're not far away. I mean, they just need a couple of tweaks, and they won 90 games last year and had tons of injuries. Like I said earlier, this could be a 100-win club next year with just a couple of moves here and there, and now they have a new manager that they hope can help them maybe squeeze out maybe 5-6 wins that they didn't have last year.
It's a strong division at the top too, Brian. That is impressive. AJ loves Seattle. You got Houston, Texas. It's a good top.
Going to be. Listen, Seattle can't be as bad as they were last year.
54%.
54%.
Oh, that's true. They win 54% of their money.
Yeah. No, they have to be better. This is their winning window, and they're wasting it.
Yeah. Capoto
so great.
Officially on the hot seat now after his comments of 54%.
You think so?
He's got to be now. He pissed off more fans than anyone I've ever heard in my life. He pissed off every single Mariner fan there was. I don't think there was one fan that was like, "Yeah, Jerry, we're behind you. Let's try to win 54% of the games."
We love mediocrity.
Yeah, that'd be like the Astros fans going, Dusty or Dana coming out and going, "You know what, guys? We're not going to try this year. We're just going to try and finish 500 and see what happens." No, this is your window. The Astros have had a bigger window than most teams ever do.
Been like a decade.
Yeah. So
I thought what was great about the division was going into the final day of the regular season or the final weekend of the regular season, all three of those teams had a shot to either win the division or get the wild card or not make the playoffs, and two of them did. The Astros won the division, the Rangers got the wild card, Seattle was eliminated. But all three of them were right there entering the final weekend of the season. So yeah, I think I think we'll see more of that next year. I think it's going to be a very, very tough division to win, a very competitive division with all three of those teams.
All right, now I got to thank you because you were just watching Joe Espada, and I don't think you were videoing him, but you were watching him, you were spying on him, kind of like you were spying on me opening day. Everybody needs to know that you were the one that videoed me embarrassingly tripping and falling, but you were also the first one to ask the question, and you wouldn't remember. It was a nothing thing, but you asked me the question. You had the most concerned look on your face. So I appreciate you caring, and yet you were kind of looking for me to get a little embarrassed. And fortunately, I was able to cash in on the tripping and falling bonus on opening day. So thank you for videoing that.
Yeah, I was worried about you out there. There were a lot of people in the stands that day. So I think somebody had told me before I got down there to ask you that it might have been a ruse. So I didn't know how to go about, and I didn't know you that well. So nope. I was kind of being delicate how to ask that question. But that was a lot of fun.
It was something that I don't remember who she was. And obviously I'd been there for probably 7 days at that point because we started on the road and then came home. But somebody in the back of the scrum, she was a younger reporter, and she kind of had her back kind of turned. And after I answered, she looked and she goes, "Did you do that on purpose?" And I was like, "I'm not going to tell." And then I got fired. And so nobody really knew until it all came back out in 2018.
I don't even remember what was the backstory now. Did you get some money out of that, or is that a bet? Or
Yeah. Scott Feldman and Luke Gregerson each gave me $1,000 to take a dive. So career minor leaguer, I'll 100% take it. I would have done it for $500, not $2,000.
Well, perfect timing. I think Brian got a call, but Brian, you'll hear us at some point afterward. Thank you for the time, because that was the end of the road right there. And congrats to Joe Espada on getting the Astros manager gig. Brian McTaggart, you can follow him. Just type in his name on Twitter. Writes for MLB. Does a great job covering the ball club. Real take stuff from him all day long. All right. Shohei Ohtani update next. Our buddy Jim Bowden has some thoughts. We're going to run him.
Who's taking him out in the sense of, are you guys, and Kratz, you might be able to hint on this, or you know where I'm going with this. Is it the manager? Is the reason Preller wants someone he's worked with because he knows he's going to get someone who's going to say yes to him and is coming above the manager's call? There's got to be some feel for why these guys are being taken out of the game this early when they go.
No. You're right. This is a continuity of an organization. Okay. Yeah. You have I'll give you the 4 sections of the organization. You have minor league development, you have scouts, you have the big league team, and you have training staff. If all 4 of those can't agree on how to run things, that's where the GM steps in and says, okay, we're doing this. Or president of baseball operations, whatever it is. They step in and they say, okay, this is how we're going to run things. If there's not continuity in that, you're going to have struggles. So every day, a manager gets a card. Okay? It's going to look exactly like this, and it's going to have every pitcher on it. And every pitcher's times that they've gotten dry humped, when they've gotten warmed up in the bullpen, is going to be on this line. Every time they've pitched is on this line. And then it's going to be color-coded. And you're going to have color coding on who can pitch and stuff in the bullpen. And then at the bottom, it's going to have your starting pitchers. And the starting pitchers are going to have red, green, and yellow. And that's going to dictate, if you're in a yellow, hey, you know what? This guy's an 80 to 100 pitch guy. If you're in the green, he might be a 90 to 110 pitch guy. If he is in the red, this start, he may only get 75 pitches. And that is based on knowledge from the analytics. That is based on scouts seeing what this guy did before and reading the numbers of what he did before, and the training staff saying, well, this is the percentage of times that people break down. And to me, if you don't have continuity in there, in the sense that Bob Melvin should have been able to go to Blake Snell and say, hey, how do you feel? And if Blake Snell comes back and goes, I'm good, dog. Like, take the ball. My free agent year. Then fine. But I don't see Blake Snell doing that.
And now, back to foul territory.
Back on FT, on Stadium. Shohei Ohtani update time. Do you feel like we're talking about him enough?
I feel like we talk about him every day, and nothing's happening.
Well, because he's mysterious.
Rey Mysterio.
Yeah. Well, let's start with Jim Bowden, our friend who's been on here, and he's at The Athletic and MLB Network Radio and CBS. And he was on his front office show on Sunday on SiriusXM and said this about Shohei.
I don't think there's any doubt the Giants are going to offer Shohei Ohtani $500 million. And I won't be surprised if they outbid the Dodgers. I won't be surprised if they outbid the industry. Mm-hmm. My question is, will he sign there? My intel has told me clearly, and I think Shohei has said it publicly through his translator. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he has. But it's been very clear throughout the process that winning is going to top everything. It's not about the most money. It's about the best chances of the most times on the World Series stage. And I believe that the Texas Rangers have the best shot to land him. With the Dodgers and the Mariners, I do think winning matters. And I don't see the Giants' path to winning. And as well as I thought the Dodgers would be on that list, all of a sudden I have a lot of questions about their pitching long term. So that's kind of my early take on Ohtani. But to answer your question, will I be surprised if San Francisco puts the biggest offer in front of Ohtani? Not at all. Will I be surprised if San Francisco's the team that drives the financial chain for him? Not at all. I think they'll be the lead train.
What do you think?
Well, I think they've tried to get a start, and they haven't been able to do it.
Try
Correa,
again.
Judge, they keep throwing money at people, and they, for one reason or another, no one wants to go there. Now, I don't know why. It's a great ballpark, but there's other factors. It's freezing fucking cold all year.
There's a lot of factors. It's cold. The
taxes are very high.
Taxes are crazy. The team is good,
okay.
Not great.
Mid.
Yeah.
But I read today on X, Twitter. I don't know. Twitter, X, whatever the hell they call it.
They have to pay us to call it X.
But
I'm not switching.
I read today where he's talking about he might want to go to the Braves. I'm like, the Braves? Where the hell? I mean, he could be a hell of a DH for the Braves.
You missed a good show on Friday. We had your buddy Dave O'Brien on, and it was the quickest answer I've ever heard to a question.
No.
Yeah.
Well, what if he said, okay, now hear me out, and you're going to laugh and say, I'm an idiot. What if he just said, for 1 year, I want to go to Atlanta. I'll take $10 million. He goes to the Braves. I'm just saying, for 1 year. He makes so much money off the field, the money on the field to him doesn't matter. It doesn't. But if he said for 1 year.
The union would disown
Listen,
him.
I get that about the union, but at the end of the day, it's your career. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
I understand. But also the Braves are rich as hell. They don't have to pay him 10
let's say
mil.
he goes to the Braves and says,
If he's signing a one-year contract.
pay me $50 million to be your DH for a year.
Yeah.
Braves would say no. He goes, I want to come to Atlanta. I want to be in Atlanta. I want to go to the playoffs. I want to win the World Series.
1 year, 50 mil. I think the Braves say yes.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But what's to say he stops that so he can come back?
But why Atlanta?
Because they probably have the best chance to go to the playoffs right now.
A lot of people have been mentioning Texas, Kratz, as a possibility. No?
Yeah, no. I'm just still shaking my head at AJ's $10 million a year. Like I think the Braves to sign him for 1 year, $65 million.
Would the Braves do it?
Because $50 million, you just heard Bowden say he's going to go to rat-infested poop land in San Francisco for $500 million.
Wow.
Like, there's other things that go into not signing in San Francisco, but does he want to go there and get pinch hit for if they bring a lefty in to face him late?
I don't know. I don't think they're not going to pitch. They're not going to pinch hit for him. I mean, Gabe Kapler's gone. Bob Melvin's not going to do that anymore, so they're not going to do that. But I don't know. It's just an interesting thought. If he really wants to win, like he says, take a 1 year deal and go somewhere and try to win. Be the what is it, Kevin Durant of the MLB? Isn't that who did that?
Hopping around
trying to find championships.
Yeah.
Right? Be the.
I think he'll settle just for the playoffs. He hasn't been in the playoffs.
But the thing is, it's so interesting. The Rangers just won the World Series, okay? And their team is basically all back. You're adding DeGrom, hopefully, if he comes back. You have Scherzer for a full year. I mean, Montgomery's gone. You trade him for basically DeGrom unless they bring him back. But Evaldi's back. Their bullpen, I'm sure, Leclerc and Boers and all those guys are all back. Their lineup's pretty much back. I don't think there's anybody that's gone for their lineup. So if Texas makes sense if they want to spend the money. Does he want to go to Texas? So the thing makes this so crazy is nobody has any fucking idea where this guy wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has any. What if he just woke up and goes, I want to go to Colorado. I'm going to go to Oakland.
Because the one thing I do think he has made clear is that he does want to win.
Okay.
Why? How's he made that clear?
Listen to his comments back at the WBC. He was like,
what
wow,
is he supposed to say?
Winning.
Oh, neat. I'm getting 2.4 million more followers. Like, this is such a neat time. I really enjoy this neatness.
I think it's real. I think
He's with his
everybody
boys.
wants to win.
No, that's not true. Did Chris Bryant want to win when he signed with the Rockies, or did he want to get paid?
He had already won. He won the bag.
Correct. So
Craig
not
Counsell
everybody
win
wants
when he
to
went
win.
from the Brewers to the Cubs.
Money first in those topics.
Oh, see how it changes.
Everybody
No,
wants to
it
win.
doesn't
Chris Bryant,
change.
money first.
But with Shohei, it's a matter of how much of a difference pricing is going to be. Like, here's where things get interesting in my mind, okay? For example, Kratz, because we're going off what just kicked this conversation off. Let's say the Giants end up getting to $600 million, and the next highest offer is in the low fives. Then you start to find out how much someone's price is worth, right? You start to weigh things. Hey, this seems pretty good, and this is a massive deal. And yes, I think all agree that there are some players that will turn down a larger offer to be somewhere that they believe in more, that they're comfortable with, right? Trey Turner did it last year. We brought that up the other day. Turned down San Diego's money to go to Philadelphia. He wanted to be on the East Coast. So anyway, I think
getting the bag and winning are not synonymous. Like, just because Craig Counsell wanted to get the bag from the Cubs, he still wants to win. I think that is a very grossly underrated thing in my opinion, with 99% of the athletes that I've met from other sports and in baseball, they want to win. And just because you go somewhere to get the bag doesn't mean you don't want to win. Just because you sign a 13-year contract and maybe you're going to be aged out by the end of it, it doesn't mean you don't want to win. It just means you're okay trying to win in a different place. And who's to say, like, everyone's like, oh, Shohei could go to the Rangers. Well, they just won the World Series. So does that mean Shohei doesn't want to win a World Series this coming season? Because nobody repeats. So he should go to a team like the Phillies. He should go to a team like the Yankees because they haven't won for a while. He should go to a team, one of those teams that hasn't won because the Rangers, he doesn't want to win a World Series next year because no team has repeated since
the Yankees.
2004 4 or whatever. No, 3.
Yankees.
1.
2000.
2001.
Yeah.
Or no, 2000. Sorry.
2000
They
was
lost in
last
01.
year.
Yep.
So getting the bag and winning are not synonymous. You are signing a lifetime contract to play in a place. And if you don't like San Francisco, whatever it is, the reason people aren't signing there, it takes a ton of money to get over that not liking a city.
Okay. I'm going to say this, and people are going to laugh when I say this, but I don't really give a fuck.
I like laughing.
Again, what if Shohei doesn't want to pitch anymore? What if he doesn't want to pitch anymore? I've heard this. Now, you guys.
I agree. Did we lose him?
In the know. There is a chance that he doesn't want to pitch anymore. What happens if he doesn't? You can't sign an incentive. The only thing you could do is sign an incentive-based contract with pitching incentives, escalators for his contract. But again, what happens if he goes, because he's not pitching next year, we know that. He signs this 10-year, $500 million contract, and he goes, man, I just rehabbed through a Tommy John and then whatever the hell, the super-duper secret elbow surgery that he had that nobody wants to talk about. And he says, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to hit, maybe play right field. Is he still worth the 50, 60 million a year?
Yes.
Probably not.
Yes.
You're paying for him to pitch.
He's worth more. No, I'm kidding. But the marketing, that's real. I believe in the marketing.
If he's worth $25 million off field to a team, what was that number? Like this year was 15 to 20 million he was worth. That's only going to escalate. You're essentially paying a guy $25 to $30 million a year that hits 40 pumps and will drive in a hunch. I think it's worth it. And the Giants, I think the Giants need him the most. I forget who we had on. Who was it that we had on that was talking about the Dodgers really need him? Like that is a importance. I think the Giants need him the most. I think they need, and other people have expressed it, they need that star. And he is ultimately the star.
Why can't we get him to speak, though? Why can't he say something?
He doesn't want to.
But still, I mean, I feel like if you're going to be the face of baseball, like he is, you got to say something every once in a while.
Like what?
I don't know. It's kind of disappointing to me that he doesn't really talk to the media. Mike Trout doesn't really talk to the media. Now, listen, they're in great places to not talk because in Anaheim, there's not a ton of media because it's not L.A. I mean, although they are the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, it's not in L.A., but we're going to call ourselves Los Angeles. It's kind of disappointing because even like Mookie Betts put himself out there a lot this year, right? And people are like, man, this is amazing. And guys like that, I mean, I get that maybe they don't want to, but at some point, man, if you sign, here's the thing, if you sign 10 years, $500 million, the team's got to go to you and say, hey, listen, Shohei, I get it, but you're going to have to throw yourself out there a little bit. That's why I will say this. There's a comfort factor in Anaheim. And I know.
No.
Listen, I'm just saying, he's in like a little cocoon there, and he can do what he wants. He basically runs the organization. He picks when he pitches. He picks when he talks. He picks when he hits. He does whatever he wants, right? And they've let him. They're not saying there's a big chance. There's a small chance if they offer him the right money, he'll go back to Anaheim.
Bob Nightingale said they're focused on Tim Anderson. I'm trolling. But...
Oh, my God.
maybe real quick, maybe he just hasn't had the conduit to be able to speak yet. Maybe he doesn't like the structure that's out there. Maybe he would like a player-driven show that he could come on and talk about his Onada data.
Yeah, which we'll be right back on.
The thing that's bit them in the ass the last 2 years in a postseason, both years, the lack of starting pitching depth. When they're healthy, they have a really deep, good starting rotation, but they just didn't have anybody that could step in for a Fried and a Charlie Morton last year. Both of those guys were hurt, and this year Charlie Morton, last year Fried and Strider coming in. Fried was coming off a sickness. He lost 15 pounds, which he's not a guy that can afford to lose 15 pounds. He was weakened by the flu. He wasn't himself at all last year. Strider was coming off an oblique. He wasn't himself. He was tired after 2 innings and got lit up in the third. This year they did the NLDS without Charlie Morton because of ligament, finger ligament injury, and with once again Fried coming in really rusty because of his injury situation. He had the blister again, so he only made one start in like 3-4 weeks before the NLDS. So both years they had 2 of their main 3 starters down or are not at full strength, and they ran up against a Phillies team that surged both times and had guys all hitting on all cylinders offensively and just wrecked them. So they've got to be able to go into next year's postseason knowing that, hey, if we have another 1 or 2 starters down, we're not going to have to rely on Bryce Elder, who had a 6 ERA down the stretch, got lit up in his last 3 starts and was on fumes because it was the most innings he'd ever pitched. We're not going to have to rely on him as one of our 3 starters in the postseason. That's why they've got to go out and get somebody, even though they brought Charlie back on the $20 million option. They still got to go out and get a frontline guy, whether that's trade for Corbin Burns, which to me would be ideal, even though he's only 1 year left on his deal. Trade for Corbin Burns, sign Sonny Gray, to team with Fried, Strider, and Charlie Morton so that you're covered for that. First round, you're going to have 3 starters, even if a couple of them are rusty or down or whatever, like they were the past 2 years. Because the offense, they didn't hit in the NLDS this year, but I think the offense is fine. I really don't think you need to do anything with the offense.
And now back to foul territory.
Back on FT with your $1,500 first bet offer when you use the bonus code FOUL. You download the BetMGM Sportsbook app or visit BetMGM.com. Sign up and deposit at least $10 into your new account and place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if that bet loses. And if that happens, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And coming soon, Erik Kratz and myself in Borgata at the poker tournament, the big fall mini series, and we're going to do our show there coming up. Oh, that is perfect. If you're listening to this show, you need to watch it for Kratz. Be right back.
So I can be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me, and I can't hold it much longer. Gotta let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
What's up? Hour 2, FT Live. So Chris Cotillo is going to join us in a few to talk Red Sox. And just to wrap up our Shohei Ohtani conversation, there was also a little update from my guy, Bob Nightingale.
How does Bob have all the information? But then he's wrong a lot, so it's like kind of weird.
It's just spelling errors. It's not that he's super wrong.
Well, he does get some stuff wrong.
Everybody gets some stuff
He makes
wrong.
some mistakes.
He gets a lot.
The Mets are focused on Yamamoto because they believe they have no realistic chance to land Shohei Ohtani.
If you offer him $1 billion, I bet they sign him.
Yeah, you're right.
I thought they'd be
Anybody
a
that
team-
offers $1 billion, you probably get him.
Yeah. No.
Does he go to the Rockies
For $1 billion?
Maybe Chris Bryant did.
for $1 billion?
Probably. Chris
Yeah.
Bryant did.
Not for $1 billion, but yeah. Does he go to the A's for $1 billion?
Maybe. I would. I'd even go to Oakland for $1 billion.
Yeah.
What?
Could potentially buy the team for $1 billion.
You build a
AJ's
good
number.
one.
AJ's number is way below $1 billion.
Correct.
Yeah,
Just in case the A's are
999,999,999 way below. To go to Oakland.
That makes
even
sense.
get rid of
So
the possums and rats and everything for $1 billion.
that makes sense, though. Yamamoto being looked at by
But isn't there a thing,
everyone.
Isn't there a thing though that like the Japanese guys don't like to go to teams that have a Japanese guy? Like Senga's already there.
For some it is, for some it's not. I've read about that in the past.
Yeah, people have talked. It's weird though because you would think you'd want to go to a place that has another Japanese guy, especially Senga, who's a shorter right-handed pitcher. You guys could talk about some stuff.
You can talk anyway, though. But yeah,
I'm just saying. I mean, we're bringing in Chris. Right here. Red Sox are a team that has been mentioned a lot in the Shohei world. I don't know if he'd go there, but the Red Sox have been mentioned by people.
Red Sox they're a Japanese team. Naga, not going to be a place Shohei's going.
a dad joke.
I don't get it.
That was a
We
dad
missed
joke.
some.
You never seen the movie The Office?
The
Office
movie?
Space, I mean? Not
Oh,
The
Office Space.
Office
Yeah,
Space.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Naga, not going to work here anymore.
Mm.
Okay.
There's better lines.
There were better
in
lines.
Office
There were
Space
better
than
lines.
that.
That's one of my favorite.
We're gonna need you to not use that joke anymore. Correct.
All right, let's bring in Chris.
Yeah.
Chris Cotillo joining us. Follow him at his name, Chris Cotillo.
Is that a Brown
writing for
shirt he
Mass
has on?
Live.
What is that?
What do you got?
BC.
Yeah, what do you got today?
BC.
Washington College.
Ah.
BC action. Do you guys want to?
Eagles.
You want to jump right into the case for Shohei Ohtani?
Yeah, let's hear it from Chris.
Okay.
He'll know.
Let's start there then, because we were on the topic. So, Chris, percentage chance, boom, there it is. We have a nice little pretty animation. Percentage chance that Shohei Ohtani ends up with the Red Sox. Do you see any scenario, or have you heard anything about their interest?
I'll go with 5% because
Okay.
I think they are going to try. I think they're going to at least be a little bit involved here just because of the star power. This is a team that wants to get back to being relevant. They want to do that immediately, and this is obviously the best and most expensive way to do so. And I think that, the thing that surfaced most often about this is that he's a New Balance guy, and he has connections to New Balance, and he would be interested in playing in the city where New Balance calls home. And their massive headquarters, which keeps growing, is actually right across the street. So I plan on staking that out throughout the offseason to see if he drops by, and maybe there's some signs of interest. But I think that is a real thing. I think he has a good relationship with the higher ups there. And you never know what kind of factors are going to come into play. At the end of the day, I think this is a guy that wants to be on the West Coast. We've heard that time and time again. I'm going to keep saying that I think the Dodgers are going to land him, and until they don't, that's going to be my pick. But I think the Red Sox are, as I said, they want to get back to star power. They want to get back to spending. Craig Breslow, has made some bold claims that he's not going to be afraid to make a big move. This would obviously be the biggest, but I don't think they're by any means the favorite.
Chris.
Chris, go ahead.
Can we show that Shohei thing again? Because what you just said was exactly what I was going to say. Can we show the case for Shohei? What's on his hands? New
Right.
Balance. Where's
got
New
next?
Balance base? Yes, Chris, you stole my thunder. That's the thing. New Balance can come in. I mean, I'm sure they're already paying him. I don't know. God knows how much they're paying him to do. I mean, he did do the commercial, in the Angels spring training where he hits the homer and the drone's flying around. We got next, the whole thing.
Do you think that's going to dictate where he signs?
Dude, think
That's
about
more
it.
money.
New Balance. I don't know if you ever been to Boston. New Balance is
Been
like
to Boston.
the thing in Boston, right? They're based there. Their world headquarters there, like you said. I think that will have something to do with it. Not a lot, but I mean, Chris, I think you're right on. That's the one way. If you're the Red Sox, I'm like hiring New Balance and saying, "Hey guys, help us recruit Shohei over here to Boston."
Yeah, I think that's the plan. I was kind of surprised at how early that leaked out. I think Peter Gammons was the first to kind of surface that, and I think some executives who have talked to other reporters have said that could be a real factor, which you don't always see. Obviously, I think it's kind of cute and funny that all these different factors surface. He might like the weather here, or my favorite one in every offseason, could this guy sign with this team because it's his hometown team? Guys are going to sign with nice heavy pushing from the union with the team that's offering the most money and the best deal. I mean, that's just kind of how it always goes. I know there's cases where that's not, exactly what happens, but 9 times out of 10, it's the biggest guarantee. So, the Red Sox could have New Balance, and maybe he likes pitching and playing at Fenway, and maybe he's comfortable with Yoshida and being teammates with another, pretty good Japanese player and all that, is important to him. But if the Red Sox are offering $60 million less, let's say, than the Dodgers, hypothetically, or the Mets or whoever, I don't think any of those kind of other factors matter as much.
But how would the Red Sox sell it? Because it kind of goes into the rest of my questions about the future of the Red Sox. Would they sell it like, hey, you can play with Jarren Duran and you can play with Marcelo Meyer and Rafi Devers and Tristan Casas? Is that enough to entice Shohei or one of the big-time free agents to come over to win?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is actually a core in place. Despite Chaim Bloom being fired, there is a core of young players, whether it be Casas, Devers, Duran, Trevor Story's here for a while, Bayo. There are some exciting pieces. I think they're a few additions away. So maybe, it's Ohtani and a couple, starting pitchers that they go after, or, one more big bat. I think the enticing thing that they could offer, in addition to the New Balance thing, Japanese players having success here. Yoshida obviously signed a big deal a year ago. Daisuke Matsuzaka, more than 10 years ago now. Guys, Okajima was another guy who won a title here. There's been some guys that have come through and had a good experience. And so I know that's something those players are interested in. I do expect the Red Sox to be in on Yamamoto. And so, we'll see. I think like I said, I think at the ownership level, they're going to have interest in at least talking to him because, why not? And it's good for business to even be linked to the guy. I'm sure they like just the fact that we're talking about it now, even though, they're not the most likely. But they can also kind of pitch, you're going to be the biggest star here. Devers is a really good player. He's a $300 million player. But, Ohtani is going to be the biggest star wherever he goes. But, he'd be the featured attraction. There's a history of Fenway. He pitched here on Patriots Day. That was a spectacle, even though it rained all day. So there are things to pitch him on. Again, I think, when you just look at some of the other situations, he's probably going to be more interested in those, especially if he wants to be on the West Coast.
Chris, enough of Ohtani. We've kind of talked about that enough. You mentioned Chaim Bloom getting let go, but you mentioned the core that he brought in. He was brought in to make the farm system good, give them a great core, and then whammy, he's fired. And now we have Craig Breslow in. I still am kind of confused what Chaim Bloom did wrong to get fired. I know they didn't make the playoffs, but he did exactly. He rebuilt the farm system. He rebuilt the core, and they have a team that can be competitive for the next few years. So why did he get let go? And I mean, I love Craig Breslow. I'm happy for him, but it was just kind of a surprise timing move for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that if you talk to people who are, as they refer to them in Boston, as members of the Bluminati, people who think that Chaim should have stuck around a little longer, which I don't think he deserved to be fired personally. I think they should have let him see it through. There kind of was that idea of like he did everything they asked. He made some good moves. That core that they asked him to develop is here. Not just kind of the Bayo, Casas, Duran, future guys, Marcelo, Roman Anthony, but also kind of those auxiliary pieces, whether it be, Cutter Crawford, Josh Winkowski, Willie Abreu had a really good September, Rafaela coming up. Like they have a lot of talent that is pretty close to Major League ready. I think that there is just a fear within the Red Sox ownership group, and probably a correct fear, that this was a guy who was too tentative at times. He was not decisive enough. If a move needed to be made and there was a deadline, another team was pushing, he was not the one who was going to say, all right, let's go all in. And they loved how Dave Dombrowski did that. They loved how Theo Epstein did that back, years ago. And there were just too many times where Chaim decided to take the passive approach and let things play out and take more of a long-term view. And, in the words of one person that worked with Chaim Bloom for a long time, the Red Sox knew that this was this guy's fatal flaw. That doesn't mean it's going to be his fatal flaw if he takes another job. It just means that it was the last 4 years here. And I think that they need, in the words of Sam Kennedy in an interview I did a couple weeks ago, decisiveness is, potentially the most important thing you could have in a baseball executive. And there were times where that was lacking. And I think with some pushing from Alex Cora about needing to compete, needing to be more decisive, I think it just was a perfect storm that, okay, it's not really about, what you've done for us to this point. You've actually done a good job. Results, last place finishes aside, like you've done what we asked. It's just, are you the guy to get us over the hump? And the decision was made that he wasn't.
I mean, they were in the playoffs in 2021 too. So, I mean, there was some success there when Chaim was in charge. But to me, I had always pushed it to ownership. I felt like ownership never really pushed in, and we had Jonathan Papelbon, who does a little bit of work for Nesson, and he said, admittedly, he's like, I'm really close with ownership, or I've gotten to know John Henry really well. He said, this guy wants to win badly. Could that mean, not just because Jonathan Papelbon said it, but because somebody actually stood up and said this guy really wants to win? Is he going to open up the purse strings for those wins, or is he hoping somebody comes in and just waves their little fingers, and then in 4 years he can fire that person and hire somebody new again?
Well, first of all, congrats to you guys for getting Papelbon to open up. I know that's very hard to do.
So tough.
Very,
So tough.
But, I think it's, the ownership around here has had a tough, they've done a bad job with the messaging to the fans. I've been on this kind of warpath for years about, I think it's ridiculous John Henry doesn't speak about the team. He has done, the last time he addressed the media publicly talking about the Red Sox and therefore spoke to the fans was the press conference announcing the Mookie Betts trade, which was, almost 4 years ago now. And fans are left wondering then how committed they are to winning. The owners are not around as much. They are, in the minds of fans, focused on other things. The Penguins, Liverpool, this new golf league that nobody knows what it is, but Rory and Tiger are involved, all that different stuff. Tom Werner had some interesting comments. I think the most important and the most interesting part of Craig Breslow's intro press conference a couple weeks ago was Tom Werner saying, we are going to go full throttle to be competitive. It was a different kind of talk than we've heard the last few years when they were talking about sustainability and the long-term view and competing year in and year out. I think as these guys get older, they realize that, every run is precious and you can't, try to, go for it once every 4 years like they really have over the last 4 years. And that, this is Boston. You should really, gear up to try to win. I think there's just, I listened to some of the comments from Hal Steinbrenner, and he said in passing the other day, like, we didn't have a losing record, but finishing over 500 is a requirement here under our ownership. Like, it's not even an option. The Red Sox have finished in 5th place, so many times. I know there's the championships, which, raised the ceiling a little bit or a lot, but the whole idea of finishing 5th is unacceptable. And I think, the Red Sox kind of have to reestablish that standard of, their floor needs to be just missing out on the wild card. You look at the skies falling in New York after that season, they were better than the Red Sox by a lot. And here it's kind of like, they finished last again. It happens. They fired another GM. Well, it happens. And I think, that perception is really hurtful to ownership. But I do think those comments for Werner and, Henry through Papelbon, I guess, are telling that, they mean business and, they have the money. I think they're going to add a couple starting pitchers, maybe Aaron Nola, Blake Snell, Yamamoto, maybe go make a big trade somewhere. Like, they have the money and the prospect capital to get stuff done. So they need to go out and do it. And they need to be aggressive. And they think that Breslow's the right guy to do it.
If Craig Breslow comes in and takes the Red Sox, let's say the team he builds, to the World Series, not even victory of the World Series, just takes them to the World Series, 3 or 4 years, playoffs, I'm hoping he keeps his job, but in Boston standards, it's probably not good enough. Does that completely make a seismic shift to ex-players being GMs, i.e. Chris Young doing it in Texas, and now Craig Breslow getting his shot? This is kind of a pressure spot for him as like players being GMs.
Yeah, and Chris Getz getting an opportunity too. So, we've now seen, for the longest time, it was only Jerry Dipoto, and now we've now seen 3 hired in the last couple of years. And, I know a couple of them were Ivy Leaguers. So I don't know if that, there seems to be that qualifier too. I think it's a trend in the game where, relatability to the clubhouse. You guys know this is very important. There have been executives over time that could not relate to players. I don't think Chaim Bloom was in that boat. I think he was very well liked by players, and he was a guy that would go have a beer in the clubhouse, go talk to the players, be candid. But, in the words of some of the people at the GM meetings, like Craig Breslow is going to have instant credibility because he's won in the uniform. He had a long major league career, well-respected guy and all of that. I think the one caveat with the Chris Young comparison is, Chris Young had a couple of years where he was John Daniels' number 2, and he was in the room and he was doing everything as the GM under John Daniels. Craig Breslow has largely worked, remotely for the Cubs the last few years from here. He has not been kind of involved in the day-to-day as much as you probably would like someone who's taking over your baseball operations department. I think that's the one knock here is the lack of experience. But if there's anybody who can catch up to speed, it's going to be the guy who's been called the smartest guy in baseball for all these years. So I think it was important to the Red Sox to find somebody that, was the complete package, could relate to the players, make the bold move, and be really smart, especially on the pitching side. I think that's a huge reason for this. Again, I wouldn't have put him at the top of the list of candidates when the search started. I wouldn't have guessed. I was actually just kind of texting and reaching around in the middle of the process, and someone who's a current manager texted, I think Breslow's getting it. I said, no, that sounds ridiculous. That I don't think he's going to be the one. And then, it turned out that he was. So a dark horse that ended up getting the job, and they have a lot of faith in him.
Hold up a second. You just said the smartest man in baseball. I didn't get the job. I'm very confused. I'm lost.
That's true.
I'm lost.
Smartest man in baseball should be on this show. Oh, here you are.
Oh, yeah, great point. You're talking about Ivy League schools, and you're talking about Princeton, and you're talking about Breslow, I think went to Yale, right? And these guys are super smart, but I'm confused. You have a BC shirt on, but you have a North Carolina thing behind you. Are you confused with which team you root for?
I'm not confused at all. I went to Carolina, so I'm a Tar Heel, but I have the privilege of being an adjunct professor, instructor, because I don't have my PhD at BC, and we have class tonight, so I'm ready for that. But I mean, tough to have two schools in the same league. Fortunately, only one is relevant in sports, and it's the one I attended. So
wait, humble brag. Wait, you have a PhD? Is that what you said?
No, I said I'm not a real professor because I don't have a PhD.
Oh, I thought you said. I thought you were saying, "Oh, I have a PhD. I got it at BC. That's why I'm, professoring."
Do you think any member of the BBWA has a PhD?
There's got to be one. There's got to be one, right?
Why. I don't know.
There's got to be multiple.
So. Multiple PhDs in the BBAA, BBWA.
How many people are in the BBWAA? A lot, right? Hundreds?
There's hundreds, but we're baseball writers. We're not splitting the atom anytime soon.
Wait, are you telling me Evan Grant doesn't have a PhD?
I can tell you Evan Drellick doesn't have a PhD. I can confirm
that.
Hey now.
Chris, awesome to have you on, dude. Appreciate the time. Enjoy the offseason. And let's see if the Red Sox make some moves here for Shohei.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man. Well, yeah, that's a good point from Derek.
Thanks a lot.
PhDs.
Yeah.
You know about those?
Yeah.
Where like someone speaks and then they're like, oh, here.
We're going to give you a PhD. Yeah.
Are they PhDs that they give them, or do they give them honorary?
They give them like degrees,
right?
Yeah, like honorary degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is actually kind of funny.
AJ?
Yeah, I want to. You know what? I want to get one that I want to get a doctorate, like an honorary doctor degree. So I'm going to make you guys call me Dr. Pierzynski.
I would call you that.
Because every doctor, isn't it? It's odd. Like the guys who are like actual medical doctors, a lot of times don't care, but it's like the people that aren't real doctors that are like, well, I have a doctorate in literature, so I want you to call me Dr. Kratz because I have a doctorate. I'm like, no, you're
like
not
Russell
a
A. Carlton, who's been a writer for Baseball Prospectus since 2009, who holds a PhD.
Who is it?
Russell A. Carlton.
Don't know him.
You should.
I feel like Dr. Pierzynski would be a foot doctor. I feel like you would definitely, you would come and like check out my feet. Look at my bunions. Look at these bunions.
Such a podiatrist.
Yep.
Anyway, on that topic,
Dr.
on
Braun
that
would be a
topic, we recently spoke to Gunnar Henderson. That has nothing to do with that. We recently spoke to Gunnar Henderson for real, though. He is going to win Rookie of the Year tonight in the American League. The Baltimore Orioles breakout. I guess you can't say star. It's too young in his career. Spoke to us for good 15, 20 minutes about what his first year was like. And we're showing the entirety of this conversation for the first time to the world. So let's run it.
It was a really fun year, just all in all, especially from day one of spring training. I felt like we all had a great group of guys and just really bought in together from day one of spring training. And just throughout the year, being able to play each and every day with those guys made it really enjoyable going to the park, and couldn't ask for a better first year.
What was the best part of 2023 for you during the season?
Honestly, the clinch for I guess it was playoffs, because we walked it off. I mean, the division champs was pretty cool, but just the circumstances of the clinch in the playoffs and walking it off, that was pretty cool.
Gunnar, you're a big guy. You're bigger than most shortstops are. How has that worked for you? Because you originally were kind of a third baseman, thought to be a third baseman, and they kind of thrust you into shortstop, did an amazing job defensively. So what was the transition like moving to shortstop for a bigger fellow?
Yeah, so ever since I got into professional ball, I pretty much had to split time between short and third. So I felt like it was nothing new for me. I just was able to finally get my feet up under me after the first month and really show what I could do at both positions. But yeah, I knew I could play shortstop and was able to prove that.
What's the second year goal? Because they don't have a second year player of the year. This is the prestigious goal, of a rookie. What's the second year goal for you?
Well, I mean, I like to set my goals high. So, I mean, I want to shoot for an MVP, and that's what I set my expectations to, and that's what the standard I try to hold myself to.
And what do you got to do? What do you got to do to get to that? What do you got to do to go from rookie of the year to MVP?
Just honestly allow myself to keep going out there and just put myself in the position to play. I felt like once I finally got out of that rut in the first month, I was able to let myself go out there and play and really show what I can do offensively and defensively.
Gunnar, did you pick up on big league things, right? Like these guys have always talked about, I played with this player, he taught me this, or I just watched this player do that. I know your team was pretty damn young, but there's a few vets there, and doesn't even have to be from a vet. I mean, Adley Rutschman feels like a vet, even though he's not. But did you pick things up from other guys? And if so, like, is there anything that stands out to you?
The biggest thing for me was in the beginning of the year, it felt like I was kind of pressing a little bit and didn't realize how long the season actually is. And being able to go through the full first season and experience that, really learn how long it is and that your numbers in the beginning and stuff and just how everything's working out. It's all going to iron itself out throughout the course of the year. And I felt like that's just one thing I learned.
Gunnar, you said you struggled the first month of the season. You guys don't have a ton of veteran position players on your team. Did a James McCann, a Cedric Mullins, a Santander grab you and say, look, dude, I know you're young, but there's 5.5 more months of this. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, so, I mean, I felt like it was a collective group because, I mean, like you said, our team's very young and they went through the same experience that I went through not too long ago. So they had that and remembered it and was able to help me get through that. And I felt like that really helped me to push through it. And I just can't thank them enough for being the teammates that they are and just being able to have them on my side as well.
Was there somebody during the season that you met that you were like, whoa, like I met this, like this is pretty amazing?
So I'll go one like non-baseball, and I got to meet Joan Jett. So I'm a big like rock fan, and she's a big Orioles fan. So that one was pretty cool. And whenever I did the in-game interview against the Yankees, I got to talk to Charles Barkley. So that one was pretty cool for me, being an Auburn fan.
Oh, nice. You talked to Chuck. What did he say? Did he have a joke?
He was just talking about Auburn, like being an Auburn fan and stuff. And then I think we might meet up at the Iron Bowl or something. I think he'll be there.
Nice. Hey, do you have a chip on your shoulder from the draft still? Like, does that stay with you? I mean, we've talked to other guys this year. Like, I'll bring up an example. Zach Gallen, who thought that he should have gotten more Cy Young votes. Or there's plenty of players, I feel like, even another exciting rookie in Evan Carter, who was picked technically in the last round of the 2020 draft in the 5th round. Like, I remember, I mean, I would host a lot of draft shows that you were projected to go in the 1st round. You end up slipping to number 42, which worked out quite nicely. That was an epic draft for Baltimore in 2019 to get you and Adley. But do you have a chip on your shoulder ever from that, or at least initially to be like, okay, I'm going to show 41 other teams, or at least a good chunk of other teams, why they really screwed up here?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I was thinking I was going to go in like top 20 or just at least 1st round. And whenever it kept falling, I honestly thought I was just going to go to Auburn. And whenever I finally got chosen, I wish I could have gone higher, but at the same time, I got a chance to go out there and prove that, I felt like I was better than majority, if not all, the ones picked before me. And I felt like didn't really take a chip on my shoulder, but I just want to go out there and prove everything because I know the standard that I can play to, and that's what I try to hold it.
I actually thought of someone else that maybe you've had some conversations with because he was pretty big for the position. Cal Ripken Jr., have you had any combos yet? Have you talked to him?
Yeah, so he's come in the clubhouse a few times. I got to chat it up with him, and he was just telling me he really loves that I'm at short and being able to play there because he was in the same boat I was, and being able to go out there and prove that we could both play shortstop and being bigger and taller guys. It's been really cool to have him, and especially one of the best Orioles and best players to do it on your side and kind of helping you.
Gunnar, can you take your hat off? Because I don't think you have the flow going. Did you cut the flow?
Man, I got it cut. I got it cut. I got the sides
Wow.
up a little bit. Sorry, I didn't brush it this morning, but
That's okay.
yeah, I had to get it chopped off a little bit. It's starting to get pretty long.
All right, because I mean, when you hit your first big league homer, remember your helmet flew off, and you got to show off the flow as you're running around the bases, right, with the headband and everything. Oh man, I mean, there's nothing like your first big league hits a homer, helmet falls off, drive all the girls crazy at Camden Yards. I mean, can't be cutting it because that's kind of become one of your things. Like Kratz is bald, that's one of his things, so your thing has to be the hair.
Yeah, I mean, I grow it out for the season. I will say it's a lot easier to manage when you can wear a hat every day. But during the off season, it's a little tough to manage.
Well, Bryce has that too. Since
Yeah.
he started playing. Remember when he was first a rookie too, Harper, like the helmet would fall off all the time. And it's like, is the helmet falling off or
is it a little bit of woo?
Yeah, which whatever. Either way, it's great. Hey, what do you want? Who do you want to talk to? I would say in the off season, like of your teammates. Is there somebody that you'll keep in touch with, whether it's just to hang out, someone that lives nearby, or even work out with? Like, what's your plan in the off season?
Yeah, so I'm actually going up to a wedding in California, and then after the wedding, I'm going to go up to Adley's house in Oregon, and we're going to hang out and do some workouts, and I'm sure play some golf at some point. So, yeah, we got that trip scheduled. So we've been trying to do that for the past few years, and we finally got one.
I like that. Yeah, meeting of like the young franchise players. What's Adley been like, with the team? Obviously, we can see what he does on the field. We've had him on for interviews. Does he command the clubhouse? Is he the leader of the team? Is he the guy that people go to, or is he more quiet?
Yeah, no, he's just really funny dude. He's always joking around in the clubhouse. He's just a great guy to have around. I mean, I spent pretty much every day since we got drafted together with him, and he's been a really fun guy to be around. He whenever I got into pro ball, he kind of broke me out of my shyness and not really knowing what to expect, and just an all around great guy. I mean, you love having him in the clubhouse, and yeah, I feel like when he's on camera, he's not as joking as he is, but once you get him off the camera, he's a really funny dude.
What's his funniest joke? What's his go-to joke? Is he a dad joke guy? Is he sarcastic? What's his style?
He can quote. I'll say he uses quotes from movies very well. He knows about every movie quote that you could think of, and he can use them in any situation off the top of his head. So
is
that's
that your
probably one of
shtick?
his best.
Do you know the movies, or do you not, or you just kind of laugh at them and say, "Oh, Adley, you're so silly"?
I'll know some of the movies, but there'll be like some, like he loves rom-coms. Not to throw him up under the bus, but he'll just quote those off the top of his head, and I'm like, how do you even remember that? But there are some that I don't know. But yeah, it's pretty funny. He does a lot of action movie quotes.
I like that.
I like it.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. My wife looks at me like I'm freaking nuts.
Amazing.
Not the rom-com. Not the rom-com part. I don't see you quoting too many rom-coms.
No.
Listen, Gunnar, you'll learn. You spend as much time on airplanes as you're about to, you get to watch a lot of movies, and you get to see movies multiple times. You
Either that or you lose a lot of money.
or you gamble and play cards and lose all your money. So watch the movies. It's much cheaper in the long run.
Yeah, that's what I planned on doing.
Gunnar, were you in on the Monopoly crew at all? Wasn't that Kyle Gibson playing Monopoly with the guys at the hotels?
Yeah, I felt like that was more for the pitchers. I never really saw too many position guys in on that. But yeah, I never got into that. There were some guys playing chess, and I don't know. I usually just stuck to the pool table. Something that
That's fair.
Yeah, I could not have to learn. So
I know there's not really much to look at as far as like past seasons for you. Of course, this is the first full season. But were you disappointed about how the playoffs turned out? I mean, obviously the goal is to win the World Series every year. The team won the division. You know, you've got a lot of career left to go, but did you look back and maybe even right after the last loss there, talk to guys in the clubhouse like, hey, we maybe could have won this thing this year? And now even looking at like who's in it, not that the teams aren't good. It's just like you got 2 wild card teams that have made it through to the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, definitely don't want to get knocked out in the first round, especially after winning the division. But yeah, I mean, we made a step in the right direction. It's ultimately not where we wanted to finish off, or not where we thought we would finish. But yeah, I mean, it's just how it fell this year. But definitely to be able to get that experience in my first year, and a lot of guys' first playoff experience, is just going to help us in the long run, and looking forward to many more runs in the future.
Is this a discussion in the offseason? I know different teams that I played for, if I actually got to play back-to-back seasons with the team, the offseason was like, dudes were talking about, hey, you know, we came up short last year. This is what we got to do. We don't want to just make it to the American League Championship Series. Is that something you guys discuss?
I feel like with all the guys that we have in the clubhouse, we know that's not where we wanted to finish. And ever since we got into spring training, we know that we could be a winning team, and to be able to go in the playoffs and prove a lot of people wrong to even make the playoffs is pretty cool. But we all knew that we had a good shot at the World Series, and to be able to have that experience up under our belt to get the playoffs in our first year, or a couple of our guys' first year. But yeah, it's going to be pretty cool to see how the future unwinds and be able to hopefully make a lot of World Series runs.
I'm going to go back to something you said before. You're going to go play Adley. You seem like a really competitive person when I watch you play. Maybe you're not a competitive person, but who wins in golf between you and Adley? Who gets the most strokes, and then who ends up ultimately winning? Or do you also play straight up?
So we'll probably play straight up. We have like a tournament that we're going to go play before we go to Oregon, but that'll probably be a scramble if I had to guess. But I'd say we're very similar in golf. We can drive the ball very far, and then it just depends on our wedges and putter on who will win. So we're very similar on that. I think we wouldn't have to give each other any strokes. It'll be a very close match regardless.
Gunnar, I got a couple questions on what you've observed around the league. So first off, back to you winning AL Outstanding Rookie. Who else in AL or NL, I guess, stood out to you as far as rookies that you went up against? Like, who would you – I mean, you did vote technically. Like, who did you think was the best rookie in either the AL or overall?
Yeah, so in the NL, I got to spend a lot of time with Corbin Carroll, which obviously is playing unreal ball, and it's been really cool to watch. I got to do some high school stuff, and it's been pretty cool to be able to kind of climb the ladder together. And then our first 4 years competing against each other, and it's just been really special. And I mean, everybody's got to see what he can do, and he's playing in the World Series right now, and they're competing for it. So it's been pretty cool to watch. And then obviously Josh Jung, I got to play against him this year. I didn't run into him any in the minors, but yeah, being able to see what he can do and the way he hits the ball, it's been really cool and really special to watch.
And then who's your favorite player currently in the bigs right now?
So my favorite player kind of growing up was Seager, Corey Seager, because pretty similar. He very tall, shortstop, or bigger guy, and being able to have somebody else to base kind of myself off of was pretty cool. And then he's probably one of the best shortstops in the game right now. So
yeah, he's pretty good. I think.
Yeah,
I think
he's doing okay. He's doing okay in the World Series too. I mean, you know,
if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, apparently you can get to the high fastball.
Or you know, like $325 million is cool too.
Yeah.
You know, basically everything.
Let's ask the question that everyone wants to know in America: when are the Orioles going to sign you?
Man, I wish it was soon, but I have no idea.
There's been no discussions, no anything? No agent back calls?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, you guys are players. Did you ever can a player reach out, or you got to wait for the team?
Usually wait for the team, because if you're the player reaching out, the team thinks you're over anxious and they can get you for cheap. Right? So you want the team to reach out, but I was never on a team when I was young. Like the Twins, they didn't sign anybody to deals.
So you just went and played.
You just went and played. But now it's changed, and now all these teams are signing these guys to Corbin Carroll, $100 million his first year, right? I mean, that seems almost more than norm, especially for a player of Gunnar's talent level. I mean, Adley, Gunnar.
Yeah.
I mean, you think man, if I'm the Orioles, I'm like, and we better get these dudes locked up because they're going to get 325 on the market and be gone.
Well, we'll keep calling it out. You do your thing. We'll call it out on our show. But
wait, before he goes, I got a question for him. He said Joan Jett. He got to meet Joan Jett. And he's a big rock guy. Okay. He's from Selma, Alabama. What are you listening to when you're driving around in your truck? Because I would think you'd be more of like a country guy than a classic rock guy.
Yes, and I listen. That's the only two genres that I listen to is country and rock, and just depends on the mood. But yeah, I get into a lot of country music, and when I'm like working out or something, it's always rock.
All right, so who's your favorite?
You were a rookie this year. Did they make you come to the front of the bus and sing it all?
Yeah, I did have to sing, and I ended up singing "Great Balls of Fire." From
nice.
Yeah, I got the inspiration from Top Gun, and yes, that was probably I gave them a couple songs to choose from, and that's the one that they came with. So
how'd it go?
It was pretty good. I kept it from like the first line or the first, I guess, chorus leading up into the second line, and that's where I cut it off. So short and sweet, but I got the job done.
Nice.
Can we get a little bit?
I knew Kratz was going to try.
No, only on the bus for the
guys. Yeah, Kratz, you gotta sign with the Orioles again.
All right. Hey, make a deal. When you win the MVP, you come back on our show and you sing one line from Great Balls of Fire. Deal?
Deal. We'll put a song. How about that? I don't know if it'll be that one. It could be a country song.
That's fine. I'll even take rap if you want to put a little out there. It's up to you.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, and don't be a stranger. Come back before that. We'll talk to you either later this offseason or next season. But again, man, congrats on winning Outstanding Rookie of the Year in the American League. What a damn season. You should be really proud, and obviously enjoy the offseason. Have fun with Adley, and we'll see you in spring training too, all right?
Sounds good. See y'all. Thank y'all for having me.
Thanks, Gunnar. And, we can be the first to say congrats to Gunnar because he's going to win Rookie of the Year tonight as well. So congrats, Gunnar. That's why we brought him on early. And we had Kevin Gossman on last week. So some good candidates for awards joining the show. Also, awards given out in the last few days for the Platinum Glove winner. We have a National League winner in Fernando Tatis Jr. and an American League winner in Andres Gimenez. Both impressive. I will say this for Tatis. I mean, he did move positions. And then he was exceptional out there.
He's also ultra athletic.
He is.
I mean, this is probably where he should have been playing from the get-go. I mean, they tried him at shortstop. That experiment didn't go great. But in the outfield, I mean, he was electric out there. Throws, the way he catches he made, jumping over walls.
He's tall.
He's tall.
He is. He's tall. But he moves. Yeah, sneaky tall, right? Really big dude. And our guy, Andres Gimenez, congratulations. Platinum Glove winner in the American League. What a year for him. Think about it. I mean, got paid, and racks up awards. So good for him. Let's lap. Can I throw one thing out there before we run through actually quite a few things here in Slap Hands today? So stick around. This isn't a 30-second Slap Hands. DeMarlo Hale was just hired by the Blue Jays as their associate manager under manager John Schneider.
My guy. I've known DeMarlo for 30 years.
He's great.
Love DeMarlo.
And he was with Gibbons in Toronto back in the day.
Yeah, I actually thought he would be the guy that's who Tito wanted to replace him.
Okay.
His manager. If Tito had any say, he would have told the Guardians to hire DeMarlo. Great guy. Great guy. Knows baseball. Been around it forever. My guy.
What's
DeMarlo, one day
associate
he'll
manager?
get a job.
What's associate manager?
It's like
is it like offensive coordinator?
No, that's Don Mattingly.
Okay.
I wonder who the defensive coordinator. It's like football. They have a special teams coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach, and associate head coach.
That's new, Kratz. Are they trying to change the game?
No idea what's going on. I'm not sure what the actual logo is, but I feel bad for D because I think D should be a manager. I don't know him as long as you know him, AJ, but he is awesome. And he just hasn't been always the bridesmaid, never the bride. But now he's got to carry the moniker of an ass manager. That's what it's gonna, break down to. You got to change the name, D. Like, you got to ask him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't like associate manager. It's very long. There couldn't have been something else.
What does he do? Like, what? He's not the bench coach. Who's the bench coach? It was Mattingly, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And now he's the offensive coordinator.
Yeah. He's the offensive coordinator, unless he gets one of the
Maybe
open
they
jobs.
just didn't want to name DeMarlo the bench coach, so they made up. It's Canada, though. Everything's a little bit off up there in Canada. The catching tastes a little different. I don't know.
They changed the R in front of the E.
Yeah,
that kind of
you watch Sports Century, and it's offense with a C. Like, it's a little bit different up there.
Color with a U.
There's a manager, a general manager, and now an associate manager. And if you don't have one, you're not cool. A little AFL action. So we had two of our buddies on the other day.
Yeah! Look, now Benny knows who I am now.
Hickey and Troy. So they sent this to us.
Yeah. Bet
they know who I am Red Sox prospects. They're not. So I was like, where are you guys? And they were like, we're in Glendale.
Yeah.
Because that's where they're playing.
Look. Here, see the picture? Look. That's the bobblehead. Can we see this? I don't know if we can split it somehow, but oh wait.
You can take over my camera.
See the bobblehead? This is the shot, and they gave this bobblehead. That's the shot right there. See? Look at that hair. That hair was flowing. Kratz, you don't know nothing about that.
Two jabronis on their fraternity tour, just enjoying seeing another jabroni.
Oh God!
Look at them. They both flexed for the picture. They both had like the suitcases in their hands, the arms out.
So again, Kratz just gets jealous when people have hair.
It's a really sad topic in my life. I really have confidence issues about my hair, but I called Brian Urlacher, and I'm going to get something done about it.
And yeah. Ian Happ.
We need those guys in the game, though.
Kipnis.
Who?
Troy and Hickey.
Yeah. Hickey, if you're watching, I'm be at Florida State. You can come to my tailgate. I won't big league you, maybe.
Yeah, right. Depends on what time he gets there.
That's true. It's a 7:00 game, so
that's a long
about
day.
4:00. Yeah.
Florida Heat.
I don't remember him. I'm going to be on the drugs at Scotland last night.
Wish I knew him. That's why we're ending early. I'm struggling. No, I'm kidding.
No, he's not.
I'm good.
No, he's not.
I'm good. Leave me alone. Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal is up right now, so I want everyone to kind of focus on that, okay? Podcast, it's been up there for a few hours, and then the YouTube show up there every Monday for you, all off season long too. And as you can see, lots of good topics. The Espada hiring, Counsell move, inside dish on the Counsell move, and how Ken was part of breaking that story. It was pretty cool. Pete Alonso, will I stay or will I go? Benetti, lots of other topiks. Kratz, what do you got?
I mean, we really matched today. I was wearing my Reading Fightin' Phils hat. Pretty sweet. It's like a gimmick on the ostrich that he runs around in as the mascot and throws the hot dogs out. But we really matched today. We had a lot of Navy, and then Cotillo came on, and AJ and him were matching with their maroonness. It was awesome.
You're right. And to me, that logo is kind of like a surprise punch in the face. Like, you don't expect it to have a fist.
One of the worst locker rooms I was ever a part of.
Oh my goodness.
Reading
so small.
Lockers are so narrow, you can't put your shoes like this. You have to stack them on top of each other. Awful. The only thing good about it was they had a Coke machine. Like the fountain Coke machine in the locker room. That was the only good thing about the Phillies.
For free.
Phillies, Reading.
Yeah.
For free, yeah.
That probably was not the best move, though. Do you think that still exists? Think they want guys chugging
visiting locker room?
Oh, in the visiting, yeah.
In the visiting.
Oh. Good point.
He was awesome.
The visiting locker room, the lockers were this wide. And you couldn't put your shoes next to it. You had to stack your shoes up on top of each other because it was too...
That's bad.
That's awful.
That's bad.
I'm sure they've done it. I mean, this was 1998. So
just recently, to give you... It was that small 6 years ago.
Oh.
They just recently did the renovations in this whole new... They didn't need to. That place draws. Shoot. They make money like NBA players. Like Reading, they draw. They put on a good show. They do. And the other good thing about playing there as a visitor, the ball flies out of there. Everybody hits a homer.
All right, what do you got?
Kratz, just in case you're wondering what Scott dressed up as last night, here's the picture to prove it. What he looked like.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he wore the cow. I milked his udders.
Little face swap.
What?
It's one of my finest photos last night with our buddy.
He also got fake tattoos on his right hand. In case
I was going to say his right hand's a little swollen like those udders.
Yeah, I was struggling last night, and I hooked my guy up. See, that's what AJ had on though.
See
Maybe
all
a
the
few
bracelets?
less. Look at all the bracelets.
Oh man, you get so many wristbands at those carnivals.
Carnivals. It's a festivity.
Festival.
Festy
Listen, it was
bestie.
awesome. I gotta admit, it was. I was talking about it this morning, and my wife was like, "Are you what the fuck?" And I'm like, "It was awesome.
It's awesome.
It was
Everyone's
awesome.
got to experience it.
Because you could walk around there, Kratz. We walked like 20,000 steps. We
Yep.
were there for like 4 hours, and you're just watching people go by in their outfits. It's unbelievable.
Sensory overload.
It is unbelievable.
I love watching people.
This is the best people watching you'll ever
Oh.
experience in your life. Ken Rosenthal is on with us tomorrow, following up his fair territory performance today. And Pasquatch. Speaking of people watching, Vinny Pasquantino is joining us. I've been wanting to talk to him all season long. He'll be with us tomorrow on FT. See you then.